Hey everybody, this is the video to get help on the Langston Hughes biography part 1 assignment. As I'm going through this, feel free to pause after I read each paragraph, or if you just gotta take a break, just pause and answer the question, or just come back to it when you're ready. So, the purpose of this is to learn about the life of Langston Hughes and understand his experiences as an African American author during the Harlem Renaissance. We are going to talk about how different Langston Hughes is from Zora Neale Hurston. We talked about how Zora Neale Hurston grew up in Eatonville, which was an African American community. She didn't really grow up around the blatant racism that a lot of other African American people did during this time. And we talked about the controversy of her representation of life as an African American during the 1920s and 30s and so on. So that was her perspective. Langston Hughes did not have that experience. He grew up around a lot more outward racism, and I think his grandparents were slaves, or one of them was. Sorry, I forgot now. But anyways, he kind of portrays a more not honest. People think that he portrays a more like realistic experience of being African American. But that's just some perspectives. So just his writing is a lot different. It's a lot more outwardly showing like the racism of the time. Okay, so just a little background for that. So for the warm-up, pick one of these GIFs. I think it's hard to beat Glenn Davis, but this one's pretty good too. I'm excited to see what you pick, or if you have other ones, which ones you find online. I know a lot of them are probably blocked for you, but all right. So directions, we're going to read each paragraph and answer the question on the following slides. If you forgot how to summarize, we did that before, but if you forgot, you can watch this video again. Some of you have already watched it. All right, paragraph 1. Langston Hughes was born 1st of February 1902 in Joplin, Missouri, the son of James Nathaniel Hughes and Carolyn Mercer Langston. In a memoir, Hughes lamented, "Unfortunately, I am not black, meaning of 100% African heritage, but rather brown or of mixed race." Okay, so this is an example of a summary. You don't have to answer anything here. This is me showing you how I summarize this. So Langston Hughes was born in 1902 in Joplin, Missouri, and was of mixed race, which is part of his identity that he struggled with. Okay, so that's how I summarize that. I picked out where he was born, when he was born, and this summary of this sentence. You see how all of that is combined into this one summary sentence. All right, paragraph 2. Both of Hughes' parents were of mixed race descent. His non-black ancestry included a white slaveholder who fathered children with a woman he owned, a French trader, and a Cherokee Indian woman. Hughes' mother came from a distinguished family of respected black educators and activists. Langston Hughes' great uncle on his mother's side, John Mercer Langston, was the first black congressman from Virginia. His grandmother, Mary Patterson Langston, attended Oberlin College at a time when few women of any race were able to pursue higher education. Langston Hughes' maternal grandfather was an abolitionist and an activist for black education. Okay, a lot of information there. So far what these first two paragraphs talk about is how Langston Hughes was of mixed race, and that this was kind of something he struggled with. So your question here, why do you think Langston Hughes struggled with this part of his identity? I know some of you might be able to relate with what he's talking about here. Are there any parts of your identity that you struggled with? So even if you are not of mixed race descent, I want you to think about if there are any parts of your identity that you struggle with. If it's too personal, don't feel like you need to share it. It's not meant to be like that. It's just a way for you to kind of connect with Langston Hughes. So I'm kind of honest here, and this is my example. So for example, I get really anxious sometimes, and that's part of my identity that I struggle with. So remember, we talked about identity with those identity maps. Identity is not just like what you look like or what your culture is or anything. Your identity is a lot more than that. Okay? So think about any part of your identity, and if you're okay with it, share what you struggle with. Okay? No one else will see it besides me and you. But again, if it's too personal, don't feel like you need to share it. I don't want you to feel like that. All right, moving on. Paragraph 3. Hughes' parents split when he was very young and his father moved to Mexico. His mother traveled in search of work while he was sent to live with his maternal grandmother. As Hughes recalled in his memoir, Mary Patterson Langston often took her small grandson in her lap and told him stories about abolitionists and courageous slaves who struggled for their freedom. This one's supposed to be underlined. This will be part of your vocab quiz. All right, paragraph 3, question. Summarize this paragraph in one complete sentence. Paragraph 4. Her tales impressed upon Hughes the nobility of black people and the importance of stoicism and even laughter in the face of hardship. Through my grandmother's stories, always life moved heroically toward an end. Nobody ever cried in my grandmother's stories. They worked, schemed, or fought, but no crying, Hughes wrote. When my grandmother died, I didn't cry either. Something about my grandmother's stories, without her having said so, taught me the uselessness of crying about anything. The use of humor as a shield from pain marked Hughes's work. Okay, so think about that when we begin reading his work. So summarize this paragraph summarize that in one complete sentence. Paragraph 4. All right, last paragraph, paragraph 5. Hughes had a rootless and often lonely childhood, living with his grandmother in Kansas and then with family friends after her death in 1912. He found refuge in literature. I began to believe in nothing but books and the wonderful world in books, where if people suffered, they suffered in beautiful language, not in monosyllables as we did in Kansas, he wrote. Okay, last question. So in this paragraph, it explains that Hughes had a difficult childhood and turned to books for comfort. Is there anything you turn to for support when things are tough? So my example is I listen to music. This helps me get through a lot of hard times, and same with books. So that's how I kind of deal with things when there's, just to kind of make me feel better. So share something that you do if there's anything you can think of. Okay, so that concludes this video. If there's any additional questions you have after watching this, just feel free to email me, Schoology message, or join my office hours, and I'll be happy to help you out. All right, everybody, good luck, and I will talk to you soon.